Hi everyone, and welcome to the Gavel Strikes. I'm Xavier Chavez, and my co-host Brian Wiedman is still jet-setting around the country, picking up collections, and he's brought us another video to show in the middle break that I'm going to be doing between the art and the comics. So again, as always, if you have any questions, always feel free to ask them while the show's going on, or put them in the comments, and Tommy will let me know of any questions that you might have. But let's go right into it with the comic book art for this week. So this is all the comic book art that's going to be in today's weekly. It's going to be ending today, starting at 6. And so again, I've just switched it up a little bit where it's not all pieces under $500. And you can obviously see it with this first piece, which is a page from OMAC Book 1, and it's by John Byrne. I brought this one along today because you usually don't see duotone board ink wash by John Byrne, and this is a great piece, a great example of his work from a #1 book of OMAC, which is One Man Army Corps. And this piece shows how the world has become a utopia, and everything is solved. You even have an image here of one of the covers from the old OMAC series, and then it shows why he was created, kind of an origin story here on the bottom 2 panels. So again, just a great piece, a great John Byrne example of duotone board, and a beautiful artwork with great gals in the middle and stuff like that. So just one of the many pieces we have in this weekly. So next up, I have, again, with strip art, I actually have 2 strips consecutively. And this one is Dog Eats Doug. And I brought this one along because it's a newer strip, it's cute, and it's an homage to Charles Schultz's Charlie Brown. And here you have the dog, and this is the original, and behind it, it's actually the strip, a print of it, how it was with the gag, and it says, either mom and dad have high expectations for you, or they'll think you remain a bald loser. So it's kind of perfect for the kid growing up, or the one that actually thought that while he was growing up by his parents. But again, great example of Anderson's work, and a great example of Dog Eats Doug. So, and continuing with strips, I brought along a classic strip of Batman by, I'm pretty sure this is by Giella. Tommy, if you can bring that up real quick on the online to see where it's at. So it's just above 500, it's 650, and it is Joe Giella. And Joe recently passed away, and this is a great piece by him of Batman's strip art. And this one is kind of funny because it's, as the action's happening, Batman screams out to Robin, "Evasive maneuver 24G, which I find amazingly interesting, how all these acrobatic maneuvers would be recorded and memorized by Robin and Batman, so they can both do it at the same time. So, and as you can see, they do remember, and they stop the guillotine with their steel-plated boots, of course. So a great 66 Batman gag, and again from the time period when the show was coming out. So it's just a fun piece from a classic artist that did Batman for a long time, and also many other DC pieces. So next I have a Ramona Framden piece, and you don't see her art very often. They do come up, but you don't see them as often as I'm sure a lot of collectors would like. And this one is a great half splash with the whole Super Friends coming out at you and foiling the villain. So it's just a great piece of basically the whole cast of characters jumping out at you from a wall position. And again, under $500. A great example of Framden's work, and just a great piece of DC superhero art. And going with a little bit of a theme, continuing here, is, as I showed you The last strip was Batman, and this one also has, of course, Batman front and center right here. But next we also have a World's Finest Batman page. And going back on a previous episode of why certain collecting habits or why people collect, I brought this one along because it's one of those pieces that has treasure hunt, Nazi gold basically, in a lost Nazi submarine, and it has an origin story of a character that, again, is not very prolific in the DC universe, but in this story he has an important role, and he was again called El Monstruo. So he has been deformed, and he used to be a normal person, as you can see here. Batman thought he was a hideous monster, and he goes, I think and speak just like you do, and I was once human, despite the repulsion in your eyes. So again, a great content page, great verbiage, a great treasure, and just a piece that it's just a great example of Dick Dillon and his work. So, and again, under $500. So great artwork in this week, and it's still very affordable in many of our opinions. So next is a newer artist that has been doing work for DC, and his name is Tyler Kirkham. And this one, again, going with the Batman theme, it's Bats Out of Hell from the Metal series, and it has all the different Justice League characters as Batman, Flash Batman, Doomsday Batman, Aquaman Batman, and it's all the Batmans, including the Man Who Laughs, fighting all the Justice League characters. And again, great piece, double page splash, newer artist, just above $500, and it has great action on all the characters you would want on it. So we had a piece last week, which was a nice splash page of the characters, kind of an origin through the Man Who Laughs, and that went over, I think, $700 or $1,000. So this one is probably going to go up there as well, so, being a double page splash and a great image of the Batmans, the evil Batmans or the metal Batmans fighting the Justice League. So next, I brought a Milo Manara illustration of one of his girls, which he's very famous for. And I personally love Milo Manara. I first found his artwork and his story of what it was been translated here as butterscotch, but its original name is the perfume of the Invisible Man in French. And there, Miel, which is the girl's name, goes and has adventures with this man that has discovered a cream that turns him invisible. And again, Milo Manara's work comes up every so often, but pages from that particular story that I've been looking for, I've only seen about 2. So I brought here today a beautiful watercolor illustration of, again, one of his beautiful girls, and just a great example, great piece. It's already above $1,500, so you can just imagine where it's going to go. But if you want an example by Manara, and it's, let's say, not as erotic as most of his artwork, this would be a great example that you can actually put on your wall, a great watercolor, and great positioning on the female. So it's just a great example of what he does, and a great piece to have if you can't find some of his published work, which I've had trouble in the last 10 years. So next, I have a Johnny Quest piece by Bill Willingham and Terry Austin, and I brought this one because it's again an independent piece. It's not Marvel or DC, and it's a Johnny Quest, great classic character and great pinup. I think it's from issue 1. Again, it was under 500. Now it's just under 1,000. And what's cool about this one is if you zoom in right here, Willingham originally drew a gun on Johnny's hand, and that wasn't placed in the actual pinup. Again, I love seeing differences like that from the original idea to the final production piece, and in this one, usually sometimes they do a really, really good job of erasing it, or not, or the blue pencil's not coming out. But this one, you can still see kind of the outline trace of the piece. So, and again, for those who are Johnny Quest fans, we just recently sold one of the covers from the series, and this is just a great follow-up. If you couldn't afford a $12,000 cover, you can definitely get one of these pinups from the issues. So, and two great artists, Bill Willingham and Terry Austin. So, just a great example of their artwork. Next, I brought some Marvel pieces, and this first one is from the Spider-Man Homecoming. Actually, it's from the Spider-Man Homecoming Prelude comics, but it's a scene directly from the Captain America Iron Man movie, where Iron Man is facing up with Captain America and all the other Avengers, and here he's telling him to stand down, and he yells out, of course, Underoos for Spider-Man, which Spider-Man then takes Captain America's shield. A great interior page with great action relevant to the movies, and just under $250 by Todd Nowak. I have terrible trouble pronouncing some of these artists' names, so I apologize. But Todd did a great job. This is a great piece. Scarlet Witch, Black Widow's face here is very kind of Campbell-esque, very good girl art, cartoony in a way. So it's just a really beautiful piece. Again, very related to the movie. So great example of his art, and great example to have in your collection. Great amount of heroes on it, and a lot of relevance to the movies. So. And going to more of the movies, this one has, it's a Chung and Morales piece from Infinity, and it has Captain America and Hawkeye defeating a bunch of Skrulls. So maybe this will come out in the new Skrull TV series with Nick Fury. Maybe it won't, but again, just great art by Chung, and again, Mark Morales is a great prolific inker in Marvel. A piece that's just above $500. Almost a half or one-third splash, and great image of again, Captain America, Hawkeye, and Captain Marvel, the one that's going to be coming out in the new movie. So great imagery here, and a great example of Chung and Morales' work. So, and one more piece here. Oh, and this one has great sketches on the back, which is always a great bonus to have. So this one next is, again, Brian's not here to tease me about this, but this one is full pencils, and it's Mark Brooks, a great X-Men piece. The new X-Men fighting each other on the team. So it's a great battle royale scene right here with X-23, one of the more famous characters. And it's Emma Frost basically letting them all go and have a training exercise, basically, or fight. So again, great piece, great detail. Mark Morales, plenty of characters on the piece, and again, when I pulled it, it was under $500. It's just above $500 as well. So great piece, great artwork, and nice detail. So. And finally, I brought this large painted piece. It's one of the covers from the DC Black Label series. And it's, again, I brought this one along because it's very, when you see it, you don't really think about DC, comic booky, more of sword and sorcery, more fine art. It's a huge piece on crescent board. Again, painted piece for one of the covers by KKAI, and under $500, which is absurd to even think about, because this piece is one of those conversation or show-stopping pieces on your wall, especially if you're into, like I said, sword and sorcery or science, kind of science fiction with monsters and stuff like that. So just a great example, just a great piece of newer art, and again, a printed, published cover, which is crazy. So what do you think about destroying misprint comics? Oh, again, if the company catches it while it's coming off the printing press. So I got a question, what do we think about destroying misprint comics? So again, a lot of those are caught by the publishing company before they're distributed. Sometimes they get sent out to a few comic book stores and they'll ask for them back, which of course never happens. But the destruction of them by the publishing company and the few of them getting out is kind of what makes them sought after and valuable. So destroying them as a collector is, of course, it would be absurd to destroy a kind of like a Spawn #1 color error or Fantastic Four green cover color error. But the company itself did that at the time, and that's why it's sought after by collectors and stuff, and it has a much higher value than the regular issue in whatever grade it grades at. I know an interesting scenario is again the Spawn #1. CGC will only consider it a variant or an error variant if there is over a certain amount, which I think is either 300 or 500. So since 300 of them haven't been graded, or 300 of them, less than 300 of them are known to have that error, CGC won't recognize it as a variant. That's why you always see the green label as a qualified. So that's also another bit of information on that of misprint comics. So, and there's a lot of them. It's and it's a whole collector niche. So just like newsstand editions. So it's again, everybody tries to do something to where they enjoy what they're doing, they're collecting, and it's part of the historical research of it. And sometimes you'll find out something by researching a piece or a comic or the making of it or the publication process of it, and you'll find something out that you are the one that basically tells the whole world. So it's always a cool thing. So, and there's always, our collectors have their method to their madness. So one last piece that I forgot to show is also another little piece on gesso board by Palumbro, and this little piece is actually a prelim to one of the Marvel Masterpieces cards from the 2020 series, I think. And again, this piece under $500, actually under $100. It's a great Legion and Shadow King piece. And again, preliminary to the final piece of the Marvel Masterpiece. But this is, again, a beautiful little example to have on your desk of Palumbo's work on gesso board and oil, which is just, again, crazy to think all that detail. And this is just the preliminary to what he would have done as the final piece. So great little example there to also own under $100, which is crazy to me. So, I will now start on the few comics that I brought. And again, the theme is kind of what I would collect from the things that I see on the weekly, what attracted me to the cover and the genres. So, but before I go into that, you will see the little video that my co-host Brian has made for us today. And again, I haven't seen it, so we'll see what he has to say out on the field.
Hi, everybody. Brian Wiedman here. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there because I'm in Florida picking up another collection. I should be there in a few more weeks. I don't have anything planned for May right now, so hopefully I'll be able to join you and Xavier as we go through more of the Gavel strikes. But I thought you guys would like to see a stack of books that I'm bringing home with me. Most of this is DC centric, very, very high grade actually. A few Marvel keys, but not as high grade. But here we go. There's an Aquaman 1. As you can see, a little bit of dust shadow at the top, but the edges are absolutely super nice. Spine is super nice. And we've got Brave and the Bold 28, first appearance of Justice League. We've got Hulk 181. I would say that the DCs are average like 8 to 9s easily. The Marvel more like 4 to 6s. Justice League #1. Adventure Comics 247. First Legion of Superheroes. A Beautiful House of Secrets 92. Action Comics 252. Absolutely gorgeous. As you can see again, it's really nice book. It's going to be a great one. Marvel Spotlight 5. It's a great Showcase 8. Second appearance of Flash. A gorgeous Showcase 22. Tomb of Dracula 10 that is in way higher than the other Marvel books. And this is, to me, this is my pride and joy right here. This is an absolutely stunning Hawkman #4. This Hawkman 4 is beyond belief beautiful. You can see the corners are really, really sharp. And then there's an X-Men 1. And it's a lot lower grade. This is probably like a 3 or maybe even a 252. But that's probably the lowest grade out of all of them together. So that's it for right now. I will be back, flying back tomorrow, and hopefully see you for the next podcast. Hopefully that little stack there will tide you over until the next time I see you. Thanks everybody for joining us. Talk to you later.
And there was Brian again showing us, which was great, a bunch of Silver Age, which I didn't really pick out from this weekly, because again, we usually get to see it, but those were nice books that most of them we don't have in this week's weekly. But it's always the same, like X-Men 1s or Spider-Man 1s, and again, the average collector will have one of those in a grade if they can, in a lower grade or a higher grade, depending on what they can afford on the Silver Age, especially if that's what they like, for example, my Daredevil 1 and stuff like that. But I brought along some Golden Age stuff that I always enjoyed, particularly, like I always say, Planet Comics was one of those titles that I always wanted to collect growing up, but they were always more expensive than the Silver Age that I would buy. And again, horror stuff I was always into, especially the EC, trying to buy some pages, or again, a real big dream would have been to find one of the horror covers, which I'm lucky enough to know a couple of friends that have one or two, but I don't personally have one, at least not yet. Hopefully I can save enough to one day get one. But I will start off with actually a really random Disney comic, which is Uncle Scrooge 64. And I brought this one along because I've always seen it, and again, a treasure cover with Scrooge throwing some gems. Nice bright red cover, which again, one of my favorite colors is red. But this particularly has a story that is banned and no longer reprinted. It's called the Marco Polo story. And this is the only way you'll be able to get this story. It's kind of like some of the old videos and cartoons from Disney that if you didn't have the original copy, it's very difficult to find one today unless it's a bootleg. But this is actually a gold key file copy comic in 9.4 of this issue, which has a banned story. And again, just cool little things like that. Disney has banned stories. Again, during the Seduction of the Innocent, a lot of the comics were tossed and burned for other reasons. But this is a piece that you can only read and get this particular story in this comic. So I always thought that was cool, especially when I first found out about that. It's like some of the drug issues that Disney has, they don't really reprint those as well when Donald Duck is using peyote and stuff like that. So it's really funny. Next, we have superhero comic, but this one I brought along because, again, it has it all. This cover has everything going for it. It has an atomic explosion in the back. It has a flying saucer. It has a superhero fighting horror monster looking at, and which is even crazier, this cover was created by Bill Everett, which is, again, if everybody knows, is Submariner and the guy that first drew Daredevil, which is what I know him from. And again, these comics I brought, they might not be the highest value comics. They might not be the highest grade comics, but these are comics that, again, catch my eye as a collector. I look at it a little bit more on the art side than what the story has or anything like that. And I look at it sometimes, especially with these, with EC Comics and Planet Comics, I look at it more at the history behind it. So, and like I said, this one has it all. And what's even funnier, I just noticed, is this rope ladder coming from the flying saucer, which I think you would think if we have flying saucers, you'd have something more technologically advanced than a helicopter rope ladder. So, but again, a beautiful comic, astonishing, number 5 from an Atlas, and again, has everything going for it in the cover image, at least in my opinion. So, now we'll go to a war comic, and I brought this one particularly along because, again, it's kind of what war comics are about. You have the heroes shooting the enemy. But I also brought this along. Not only is this in our weekly, but we have a monthly dedicated to all war comics. And it just started this week. And you can look it up on our comic department tab. I don't know the auction number off the top of my head, but we do have one. And for those of you that collect war comics, especially the Golden Age stuff that's a little bit more difficult to find, there's a lot of examples in that auction, and some examples in our weekly. So, and this is, again, a great piece where you have an Atlas comic, and you have the Allied forces or the Americans coming in and defeating the Chinese, as you see, or the Asian forces. So, again, great issue and a great example if somebody's missing it in their collection. Going from that, we'll go to horror, and there's like Gold Key and Dell had a lot of photo covers, especially for the TV series, TV series, comics, and the movies that Disney would produce. But this is a photo cover for a horror comic, which you don't really get to see often, and it's a great piece, great expressions on their faces, especially the girl in the back and the guy with the gun. And this is a #1 comic as well. It's a suspense #1 by Atlas, and at this time it's already called a Marvel comic. It's in a 4. Again, it's a VG, but the cover, especially the front cover, looks much nicer than a 4. And again, one of those collecting niche genres where there's a lot of collectors that look for photo covers. And mostly it's sometimes done with the Dells and the Gold Keys. But there are a lot of photo covers that can be found in the Golden Age. A Miss America is one of them. And there's collectors that go after that. And this is, to me, a nice example of that particular subgenre of collecting. So. So, and continuing on there, we have another horror comic, which is Beware Terror Tales. And this one I brought along because, again, visually it's a eye-catching comic where you have all this white with the red and the yellow, and then you have all the monsters around the human, which is, again, in shock. You also have a mummy. I love mummies, and I love Egypt stuff. So. And this is a higher grade comic, a 7.5 for a #1, and it's a Fawcett publication from '52. Again, a horror comic from the '50s is not easy to find, especially in higher grade. And like I said, this has a lot of eye appeal. It's very eye-catching with the colors and the negative space with the white, and the way it just catches my eye. So it presents very well, and it's one of those nice conversation piece where you can say why you like horror and stuff like that. So nice book. So, and from the comics and the horror, I will show 2 pulps that are in this week's weekly, And again, they were eye-catching to me. A lot of these pulp covers have also the same collector appeal, in my opinion, as the Golden Age titles and some of this horror stuff that I've been showing. So here we have what in comic terms would be a bondage cover. The woman is tied up. She's about to be pierced through the eyes with this golden mask, which looks terrible. And it's a spider issue. Again, great colors. The purple and the green and the red really pop. A great example. It's in great condition for the pulp time period. And again, this is something that when CGC starts grading the pulps, it's going to be bondage cover or classic cover. And again, a great example of what I think will be something that will be a subgenre of collecting or something that collectors will gravitate towards rather than just the generic covers. And going to that also, this one I think is going to be like the radium issue or the disintegration cover in comics. This is a shadowed disintegration cover, which is basically the guy is being vaporized by the villain with his finger. So, and again, this will probably get a label of classic cover. Great horrific incident happening, skeleton, and again, just great shape for a shadow cover pulp from 1942, and a great example to have in your collection if you're missing one of these. So don't miss out on this on the Comics Weekly, which is 122318, and don't miss on the comic art that's going to be ending tonight and that auction number is 322317. Again, if you have any questions, always feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Or if I have any questions right now, I can answer them really quickly. So, but if anything else, I can be reached at xavierc@ha.com. You can also leave a comment in the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or the podcast so we can continue doing all these things and continue bringing you information that, again, I hope is valuable information that helps you make a more informed collecting decision. So, and do you have a Holy Grail item? So I actually have, the question is, do I have an item that I think is a Grail piece to me? And I have at least two. I think there's kind of five. It's hard to pick one sometimes, but I have two pieces of art, of course, that and of Daredevil art that I thought when I won them at auction, first off, I didn't think I would be able to win them. And it was one of those instances where you put in the high bid amount that you have, and the auction ends, and you're staring at the number that is the final winning bid, and you're realizing you're saying, okay, I put in a bid of $5,000, and this is saying $3,500, and it's just like, I won this. And that sense of pause to inform yourself of the reality that you did win this piece is what I think that it was one of those Grail moments. And the first piece that I ever had that experience with is I have the last page to issue 1 of Daredevil Yellow by Tim Sale when Daredevil puts on the yellow costume for the first time. And I had collected Daredevil as a kid for a very long time and had gotten away from it for a while. And when the Daredevil Yellow storyline came out is when I was just started to, I was a junior or senior in high school, about to start college, and I was just like, okay, let me get back into comics because this might be something I'll be doing later. And I read that story and I completely fell in love. I tried to get the whole first issue at one point, but I realized that was going to be a much more difficult task than I ever thought it would be. So I was very happy to have the few pages that I was able to get. And today I only have that one piece left, apart from a preliminary to the Daredevil #1 that he did. I have the preliminary sketch to that. But that is my Tim Sale piece. That is one of my favorite pieces, and it's one of those pieces that I was just like, I can't believe I got. And the second piece was I have the title splash to Daredevil 132, which is the first title splash that Bullseye is on, and it's the second appearance of Bullseye. And that was another instance where I overbid what I should have, and it worked out because I ended up winning it. And it's just like, again, Bullseye being Daredevil's, I think, arch villain, pretty much. To have it, the second appearance of the character it was one of those moments that I was just like, I can't believe I have this. And I'm only, if I'm not mistaken, I'm only the second person to have that, because that, from the description, that piece was gifted to a friend of Bob Brown's, and that friend only sold it once I was able to purchase it. So stuff like that is very special to me, and again, it's part of why I got into what I do. So, and that was a very good question, at least to get me to talk. So, but if there's not any other questions, again, I'm Xavier Chavez for the Gavel Strikes. My co-host Brian Wiedman will hopefully be here in the next show, and I hope to see you again in the next show as well. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email me directly or Brian as well. Good luck bidding and happy collecting.